If you bought a home within the last 2 to 3 years, then you're probably feeling like a bit of a genius at this point, and it's not because of that low interest rate that you locked in. I mean, that's part of it, sure, but that's not really the sexy part of real estate. It's not what most people tend to brag to their friends about, at least. No, what everyone loves to talk about are these huge equity gains that their home made for doing absolutely nothing, aside from, of course, buying the home, which is not nothing, but you get what I mean. The point is that if you're currently a Florida homeowner, then you probably saw an average of $100K equity bump in your home's value within the last 12 to 18 months. I myself am a benefactor of this, having bought 4 properties in the last 24 months, so I can tell you firsthand that watching your net worth skyrocket by the decisions that you've made is nothing short of a blessing for your family and yourself. But now the question that everyone seems to be asking themselves is, where is the market at today? More specifically, the Miami real estate market. And stick around to the end of this video where I'm going to discuss if there will be another opportunity for you to cash in on that massive appreciation gains that everybody seems to have cashed in on. So this is what I'm hoping to address and ideally provide you all with more clarity on so that you can make a better informed decision moving forward. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Steven Vargas. I'm a top producing real estate agent and owner of Confidant Property Management here in the Miami area. So if you're looking to buy, sell, rent, or have your investment property professionally managed, then of course feel free to email me or click on the link found in the show notes below to schedule a call with myself or somebody from my team. And also don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Okay, let's get straight into it. And what's going on with the Miami real estate market leading into Q4 of 2022? Well, the market has definitely slowed down. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. We're far from those record-breaking numbers that we saw in 2021. Single-family home sales are down around 27%, and existing condo sales are down around 39%. Most of this, as I'm sure you can all imagine, has to do with the higher interest rates that we've been seeing today, which hover around 5 to 6% as the filming of this video, which is a far cry from the sub 3% rates that we were all seeing and accustomed to back in 2021. So what this all boils down to is a complete inverse of supply and demand. Nationwide, active listings have increased and the amount of showings have decreased, which is definitely a complete turnaround from just 12 to 18 months ago, where the amount of showings were through the roof and the inventory levels were never lower than they've ever been. Now, before some of you out there go throw a party and start messaging everybody "I told you so's," you may want to know that in July we saw the medium single family home price increase to about 10.7%, and the condo median price increased as well. August and September are also seeing increases, but not as heavy as what we saw in July. What this tells us is that demand for Miami real estate is still there. We all expected the market to slow down. The Fed told us as much, as the entire purpose of increasing interest rates was to slow down spending in an effort to, of course, decrease inflation. So a market correction is what most experts are calling this slowdown and not so much of a crash. Now you may be asking yourself, how do we know this isn't a crash? Well, there are 3 reasons why most experts don't believe prices will crash, and let me give them to you. Number 1, solid underwriting, meaning banks were much more stringent on who they loan money to, so the homeowner is way more qualified to own that property than they ever were before. Number 2, lower foreclosure rates and a smaller likelihood of foreclosures taking place in the near future. Foreclosures are one of the biggest factors to any crash, and a crash usually happens when a buyer is forced to sell their home. Because buyers are more qualified now, forced sales are probably not as likely to happen, or at least not play a big of a factor, especially when you consider that over 41% of home sales that took place in Miami were cash purchases. And finally, number 3 is that inventory is still at historical lows. So even though inventory is increasing from last year, it's still low in comparison to pre-pandemic levels. So this all brings me to a very interesting point that you may want to take into account, which is, although home sales are slowing down, prices are being slashed, and supply is technically increasing, they're still above pre-pandemic levels, which is the most telling of all. So yes, the increase in interest rates has quickly slowed down the market, but the baseline has been raised. Keep in mind that the years prior to this frenzy were great years for Miami real estate, which is one of the main reasons that I do not foresee an impending market crash. Follow me here for a moment. If the baseline today is still above that of 2018 and 2019, which, as I mentioned, were great years for Miami real estate, then it stands to reason that we should expect to experience normal levels of inventory, standard growth and appreciation, and an overall healthy market. The only way in which a crash can occur is if prices plummet well below the baseline of 2018 and 2019. Now, can that happen? Of course, anything can happen. It is the real estate market after all. But the question is, or the better question is it likely to happen? And given the data that we have as of today, it does not seem very likely. Again, I will reiterate that outside factors may change that, but from our point of view, it won't be due to a housing bubble or anything of that sort. If anything, it's probably going to be a black swan type of event. Looking towards the end of the the year, and what we can expect is a much more healthy and neutral market. Coming from the craziness of the last 2 years, yeah, it may seem like a crash to some, but when you consider that Miami sales continue to outpace the nation, it points to one of the safest markets that you could be in, mainly due to 2 factors. Number 1, Miami has one of the highest home purchases attributed to cash buyers than anywhere else in the nation. And number 2, Miami ranked as number 6 in the top 10 US metros where home buyers' income grew the most. So let's bring this all home and recap, because I know I just gave you a ton of information. Basically, it all comes down to this. Demand, prices, and showings are still higher than pre-pandemic levels. Foreclosures in Miami are far less likely due to a large amount of cash purchases that took place in the past 2 years. And of course, the city has seen an overall increase in income to home buyers. So is Miami insulated? That's what everybody's asking themselves, and that's what a lot of people are thinking. But honestly, who knows? It's too early to tell for certain, but definitely certain factors point out to a much better outcome in Miami than other cities. Now, for the question some of you are probably wondering, is it too late to buy a home and cash in on that appreciation that so many have? Well, let me just get this out of the way. I don't think that we're ever going to see something quite like what has transpired in the last few years ever again, at least not in my lifetime, but that doesn't mean that there isn't any opportunity left. The biggest thing that I think that Miami gained throughout the course of these last 2 years is that it's firmly and finally positioned itself as a preeminent business market. Miami is no longer a place where people go to vacation. I think Miami is now seen as a place where people go to conduct business. And Miami has been thrown into the mix with the likes of New York, California, and Chicago because of this, and this will pay dividends to home buyers in the future. The future of the city looks bright, as home buyer sentiment for Miami from both local and those out of state are at an all-time high, and I can't see how that would not make Miami one of the best places to own a piece of real estate in the years to come. As the saying goes, the best time to have bought real estate would have been 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. And I do just want to say one thing. A lot of agents are pushing this buy now and then refinance later. And although I agree that that may work for some people, it's definitely not a one size fits all approach. It depends on your position in the market. If you definitely need to move to Miami and there's no other option, you need to get out of where you're living, then buying is one of your better options here than it would be to rent. So in that scenario, yes, buy now and then you can always refinance later. But if you do have the option to hold off, I firmly believe that prices are going to dip a little bit more before they start to stabilize. So maybe holding off may be the better option if you want to get some of a discount that you otherwise probably wouldn't see if you buy it right now. Again, if you're a cash buyer, this I think is a perfect time because interest rates are irrelevant to you for the most part. So coming in now in a market that's kind of unsteady, a lot of sellers are starting to see the writing on the wall that the good days of just having these great and overpriced homes and selling them without any, without really any thought or effort are gone. But as with everything, don't just take my word for it. I'm just some guy on YouTube that just happens to do real estate on a day-to-day basis. I always recommend do your own research to arrive to your own conclusion. But if you do feel the need to buy real estate in the near future, then of course, feel free to reach out to me to schedule a call with myself or someone from my team to see if you're a good fit to work with us. I want to help you and I want to make sure that you succeed. And the best way of doing so is to equip you with the knowledge that you need so that you know what you're getting yourself into. And that is the whole reason why I make these videos, so that you can have as much value and information as possible to go out there to the market and obviously make the right decision for yourself and for your family. And with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in and making it this far. I appreciate all of you. And of course, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you found value from this video. And I will see you all next week. Take care and God bless.